Welcome to Safety Talk, the podcast dedicated to improving your personal safety in both the digital and physical world. Your Safety Talk host is personal safety expert Pete Canavan. Pete shares his insights and interviews experts who provide simple and effective tips, techniques, and technologies to keep you safe and secure both online and off. Here's Pete.
Hello, and welcome to another exciting and informative episode of Safety Talk. I am your host and personal safety expert, Pete Canavan, and I'm here with my co-host, social media and branding expert, Neil Haley. This week, we've got an incredible guest for you. She is a strong and brave woman who is going to be sharing her personal experiences with several safety-related problems. She'll be talking about some of the things she recommends that others do to improve the safety of themselves as well as their families. Get ready to learn from someone who has had to deal firsthand with several challenges. So our guest today is Irene Gebelnick. She is an author, a mother, and a freelance writer. She is also the founder of The Power of Writing and teaches businesses how to grow using email marketing. She is also a health and fitness expert who was featured on the award-winning The Queen Sylvie Show on Fishbowl Radio. And it was on that show that she helped millions of listeners live healthier and happier lives. After many bizarre encounters, she gave up the show. Concerned for her family's safety, she stopped going live on the radio. She canceled her book signings and became more careful with her exposure on social media. Today, we're going to be talking about some of these bizarre encounters and provide you with information about how you can better protect yourself and your family. Welcome to Safety Talk, Irene, and thanks for being on the show. We're so happy that you are joining us today because your experiences can help other women out there and men and their families protect themselves from some of the things that you've had to deal with in your own life.
Hey, Pete. I'm so glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
We're so happy that you're joining us today so that, your experiences can help other women out there with, some of the things that you've had to deal with, in your own life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's been, it's one of those things that you never think it will happen to you. And when it does, you just want to give back and help anyone possible, prevent it from happening to anyone else. So glad to be here.
That's awesome because, that's what I say all the time. If what I do and what I say and what I teach can help just one person be safer or prevent one incident, I mean, it's worth it, and that's what it's all about is keeping people safe, letting them understand various things that they may be doing that are jeopardizing their safety, whether it's things they're posting online or some habits that they're doing that, they're not, really understanding how much it can jeopardize what it is that they need to worry about, which is, their safety.
Absolutely. I was so excited when I saw your show and, it's not really in my niche, but I thought, gosh, I have to be on this show. I was just so happy to hear that there was something out there like this because it's so needed. It's so important.
Absolutely. And that's the thing, Irene, and you putting out your story. That's really getting out of your comfort zone, especially you being an email marketer and involved in the whole social media and had the radio show. You see specifically enough how once you become a public figure, everyone's game on you. You really don't have a private life in certain ways.
No, you don't. And it's very, very scary. Even when I was just a realtor, not just a realtor, but when I was a realtor for 9 years, and all I had was a website. And honestly, most of my business came through referrals. And I didn't do a heck of a lot with social media. I just didn't have to. And even then, I would get bizarre text messages from strange people who just saw my cell phone number online. And that alone is scary. And that realtor out in, gosh, where was that? Nevada a few years back. It's scary. It's very scary. And one of the very first things when you become a realtor is you go through a safety course, and they talk about how to protect yourself. And just working in open house by yourself can be very, very scary. And I never, ever once deviated from the safety precautions of working in open house. Not once. Because you can't. It's that one time that you slip up and you don't follow the precautions that something can happen.
I've done realtor self-defense courses in the past, and I believe it's August or September is Realtor Safety Month, and that's usually when I'll put some information out there, offering my services to realtors, because, as you said, one of the big things that realtors have in their ads is their picture and their phone number.
Definitely, yeah.
And that is something that, people see the picture, they say, okay, I want to see what, listings this realtor has. And it was a few years ago, I don't remember if it was the Nevada case or not, but it was a few years ago where somebody, basically was putting out there that they were interested in homes, but they were researching houses that were off the beaten path, like at the ends of dead ends or far out in the boonies. And they were meeting realtors out there and, trying to rob them or accost them or worse. And so, like you said, you got to be careful no matter what it is that you do. And realtors have a special sort of need for being safer because they're alone a lot of times and showing houses to strangers. You don't know who these people are.
Absolutely. It's very scary. And I always let someone know where I was. And these are just things I teach my kids. I need to know where you are at all times. And I was one of those moms. I got my oldest daughter, her first cell phone when she was only 10. And one night we were out after a concert having ice cream, and a couple of the other moms said, "I can't believe you got her a cell phone." And I thought, I really? And I said, I didn't get it for her. I got it for me.
Right.
I need to know, she's getting to the age where she wants to ride her bike to her friend's house. And in that, few block radius, I want her to be able to text me and tell me I'm safe, I'm here, I can track her. I didn't get it for her to have fun. I got it because I needed to know that I could contact her and that she can contact me. So.
And that's very interesting because a lot of people, they don't look at the cell phone that way. They look at it as something that they, heck, not even making phone calls anymore, right? But texting and, video conferencing and checking email and watching videos and doing research, et cetera. But the cell phone can become an absolutely critical safety feature, especially when you couple it with apps. There are a lot of safety apps out there. I came across a really, really cool one the other day that is actually coupled with a safety device that is called WanderSafe.
Wow, okay.
And it's designed for travelers. And I was doing some reading about it, and it's an incredible device. And so there are these things out there that are designed to make your cell phone into something that can improve your safety. Unfortunately, cell phones are something that can really cause problems with your personal safety.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
There's a mix for sure. Now, Irene, when you talk about, the concerns you had as a realtor, once you kind of became more of a public figure, because you're a woman and a lot of men aren't really approached that way, maybe some as a public figure, but because you were a private person, just once you got your radio show and stuff like that, how did it and you're out there in other ways, social media wise, did people reach out to you that was really dangerous just because they thought you were approachable based on being a woman and also kind of being out there?
Well, honestly, the things I encountered were more online, very bizarre things happening through my cell phone, through my, so it wasn't really running into people face to face. And the show I was on was out of Dallas and I'm in Western New York. But people listen to it all over the country. But it was more just a lot of hits on my website, strange things. I still get at least several times a week very bizarre messages through my contact. Now I'm giving people ideas. Don't do that. Don't go to my website and contact me unless you want, unless you're a professional business owner and you need some help.
and that's hard, because here's the problem. There's many guys out there, and I'll even say women, that want to look at somebody who is attractive and that's out there. They think, okay, just because they're out there, I have the right to contact them, even if it's not business, and reach out to them via social media, ping them, DM them, and think that you're fair game. Just because that's what they do online in stalking, and thinking they don't understand reality. We're not at a bar. We're not at a specific place. There's personal space and privacy.
People don't respect your privacy, and the constant Facebook friend requests.
Oh, it's crazy! It's crazy.
And I just ignore them, and I never ever accept one unless I look at their profile. If we have mutual friends in common, even then, I often regret and end up blocking people, because I think, okay, you're being completely out of line here, and it's kind of scary, and just the bizarre messages people leave you, and it's bizarre. And I don't really
some people, and a lot of times too, like, we're being, approached by those people that are interested in boosting their social media numbers. And so a lot of times the reverse happens too. So there are people that are out there, sending friend requests to all these people that they want to be friends with, hoping some of them will agree. And then they can say they have X number of friends, which, is kind of like your social media currency, really.
Yeah.
If you've got 1,000 people on Twitter following you versus 1 million people on Twitter following you, well, guess what? You've got a much greater influence over people when you have 1 million people following you. And so whether it's on, Twitter or Instagram or Facebook or, LinkedIn or any of these different platforms, you brought up a great point, Irene, which is you don't accept friend requests from people that you don't know, that are not your friends, that you don't feel comfortable having them know the things that you only share with your friends, whether it's your phone number or your address or your date of birth or where you work or whatever. And so it's something that we all have to be very, very wary of. And unfortunately, cyber stalking, which is essentially what we're talking about here, can lead to offline stalking. And that's even scarier.
Or people make bad decisions because they were contacted with somebody online they would never have considered, and they were stalked in certain ways, and then they got manipulated. One of my clients deals with catfishing as an expert, and how many people are catfishing unsuspecting people for romantic situations when that's not really the person that's there. And it's $1 billion industry internationally where people say they're somebody when they're ultimately not, scam them for money, certain things. It's very, very scary, and you really have to be on guard, as always Pete talks about in the real world, but in the cyber world, we have to be as aware. I don't know, Pete, if I'm that aware because I'm just out there too much, but that's just me, that you have to be aware of these things because you never know when you're going to be scammed. And Irene, can you agree to that as well? You were seeing a lot of times people saying they were certain people when they ultimately weren't at all.
Absolutely. In fact, that happens so often. I mean, every few weeks, a friend of mine on Facebook will say, okay, this wasn't me. If you get a bizarre friend request, it wasn't me. It's becoming so common that I question everything I see online. But
that's the smart thing to do, though, is to question it, because we have so many sophisticated scams and social engineering attacks happening where I run into this all the time, where a client will get an email or I will get an email and it'll say something, that sounds valid, like, I'm interested in your services, or I'm interested in buying equipment from you, or I'm interested in whatever it is that your business provides. And, here I'm going to, here's some information for you. Well, one of the first things I do is, I've never heard from this person before, and I mean, this is a great piece of information for anybody out there to do, is okay, so let's say it comes from, Joe at ABC Company, right? Well, abccompany.com, right? abccompany.com should be a real domain. So you can go to abccompany.com and see if there is a website there. The less sophisticated people that are out there phishing and trying to scam you, you'll go to the website and it'll say like, this site is parked courtesy of whoever, and it won't even be, there won't even be a website
exactly,
there. So how real of a company are you? So that's on the one side. On the other side, what I'm starting to see are actual websites that are being developed, like multiple pages for a company like abccompany.com, where it is validating whatever that email is that you received. So now you're like, okay, I just received an email, looking to buy, 10 computers. Okay, abccompany.com. They have a corporate warehouse in Texas, and they have a satellite warehouse in Pennsylvania. Oh, great. We want to buy 10 laptops for our Pennsylvania location.
They're just pictures. Anyone can throw a bunch of pictures on a website and pretend that it's a legitimate business, and you'd never know. How would you know?
No, well, here's the other part of this. Okay, so now I'm going to take it one step further for people. If you're still in doubt, okay, and we should all, again, be skeptical, right? You can go to Network Solutions website, and down on the bottom of the page, there's a service called Who Is. So you can click Who Is, and it will tell you, and you put in the name of the domain, abccompany.com, and it'll tell you when that domain was registered, who it was registered to, etc. So if that domain name was registered last week, and they're showing like it's a massive company with thousands of employees, ding, 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 your alarm should be going off saying scam, next, delete.
Great advice. Thank you. I did not know that. That's really good to know. Really good to know. Thanks, Pete.
And also, Pete, as you talked about Alexa ranking, if they're not having tons of traffic and things like that, then that's another way to spot it's not a real company either.
Exactly.
I mean, but also searching. I think a lot of times when we're talking scamming in that direction, I'm going to Google search everything. I'm going to look and see what's online. I'm going to see how much is out there. A lot of them will promise the world, but if they don't have a social media and also digital marketing blueprint, and they're saying they have all these things, they ultimately don't. And you already know that they're lying. And if you already have lost trust from those people, I think it's over. And Irene, you would completely agree as, an email marketing expert and different things, when companies approach you to possibly be for you to your services, you're going to investigate them as well, because you can't just say, sure, I'll do the services, and then they never pay you, or they'll pay you for the first month, then stop paying you after that.
Absolutely. I investigate everyone. In fact, a while back, I had this old cedar chest in the attic, and I'm moving, and so I'm getting rid of a lot of stuff. I'm just kind of, at a stage of my life where less is more. Used to buy stuff, and now you accumulate. Now I'm trying to kind of just get rid of it.
Get rid of it, yeah.
And it's refreshing. But I had this cedar chest, never used it. Beautiful, beautiful antique chest. So I threw it up on Craigslist, and I'm a safety gal.
Craigslist. Oh goodness.
Yes.
Okay.
Craigslist, right?
Watch out.
Oh yeah.
So they come to my house because
now coming to your house. Now we're looking.
But listen, I have a panic button hooked up to my alarm system, and I keep it in my hand. And if I hit that red button, the police will be here in 2 minutes. So, but I Googled the guy. I'm looking, now there's a guy coming at lunchtime to look at this cedar chest. And I said, oh, so you're a lawyer. And he says to me, how do you know that? And I said, well, I Googled you. And he said, that's weird. I said, really? You're in my home. And
that's not weird at all. You're looking out for yourself. I'm
like, how would you like it if a man was coming to look at something you were selling and was in your home with your wife right now? And he goes, good point. Good point.
Good for you for pointing that out to him, because a lot of people don't take that step. And it amazes me how trusting people are. And, yes, most people are good. Most people are not out to scam you. Most people have your best interest in heart.
But you're going to be hit. It's going to happen. It's going to happen to even the best. And it's going to happen in certain ways that you don't know how it's going to turn your life around or different things based on also the situation. And go adding more to the catfishing thing is there are a lot of people that, hey, say who they are, and they truly are, but yet they're scammers in some sort of way. And you never know when you're going to get hit with those scams or different situations. Or we just watch Crime Story all the time, or the ID channel, and watch these scams or different people taking people in advantage and look like, hey, it's a great romantic love, and they took all your money. So just because it might not happen in 24 hours, Irene, it could happen, right?
Absolutely. And you bring up a really good point. And I feel like I'm so cautious that if it could happen to me, which it did, and without going into too many details, I feel like it could really honestly happen to anyone.
Truly.
And the best way, the only way to really prepare yourself for that, on top of just being as cautious as possible, is to take care of your health, because nothing prepares you for the emotional duress and what you go through after something like that so scary happens to you. And it's so, so important. And of course, I was the health and fitness expert for a long time, and focusing even, on my blog with that before I gave all that up and all this happened. But it's so important to take care of your health, your physical health, and your well-being, and just to take care of yourself, because you're going to need that strength if something does happen to you or a family member, because it really puts a toll on the entire family.
Oh, yeah. Emotionally, physically, mentally, spiritually, you have to be strong, and you will have to lean on other people. And that's something that, physical health, a lot of things start with that, because if you feel good about your body and how you're looking and feeling, that's going to translate into you feeling better emotionally. You're going to feel better about yourself mentally, et cetera. So these things are all interconnected. If you have a bad mental image of yourself, then that's going to manifest itself in things outwardly, in your physical health, et cetera. So they're all connected.
Exactly, Pete. And also to have the confidence to stand up for yourself and to not let someone take advantage of you. And I have another really good example. And going back to my real estate days, like I said, I followed those safety rules exactly. And one of the things they say is if someone walks in 5 minutes before your open house is over, right? They sneak in at the end. And this guy came in. I'm in this beautiful suburban home. And I was doing it for a colleague, the open house, helping them out while he was on vacation. And the person comes in and he said, hey, there's something up in the master bedroom on the ceiling. Can you come take a look at that with me? I thought, is this guy crazy? This man actually thought I would be stupid enough to go up to the bedroom with him when now it's after 3:00 and the open house is closed and no one else is walking in the door.
Wow.
I cannot go upstairs with you. I said, it's not my listing. Let me take your information. I'll have the listing agent call you. He can talk to the homeowners and let you know what's going on. No, come on, it'll just take a minute. Just, come up and look. And I said, I'm sorry, sir, for safety reasons, I cannot go upstairs with you. Oh, I'm married. All of a sudden he's backpedaling. Well, he left. Well, without
giving you his contact information, I bet.
He did give me his card. I think he got nervous at that point. I'm already texting, my boyfriend. I'm just like, okay, there's someone in the house. I always did. And then as soon as he left, I lock the doors, lock up, and then I turn all the lights off before I leave. I never walk the house with a single door unlocked or open, all safety precautions. And of course, you don't know if someone's still in the house, if it's really busy, but I'm always real careful to try to make sure everyone has left. And I'm telling you, when I was turning the lights off and I went upstairs, there was nothing on the ceiling.
Of course not.
Oh, of course. It's just another situation. That's where women have to protect themselves, but also we can go into guys protecting themselves because of what's happening today, where no one's going to tell the truth. So you really have to trust people. So I'm going to go in. Pete's kind of ducking and not going to that question. Irene, what happened to you today to make you want, without telling the whole story, to be out here telling to protect yourself, especially online and through what you went through? Can you give us a little bit of that story?
Pete, we talked about this.
That's okay.
Let's see. Have you researched? Then I won't. We won't add. He didn't tell me what I could say. Irene, if you've checked my portfolio of who I've interviewed, I've had to ask some tough questions to certain people that didn't like those questions, but I'm asking it, and we don't have to go that route.
Well,
I want to know what you want to teach.
I will tell you this
tonight. Yeah, go ahead.
I was stalked in a very, very scary way. And it's very difficult to prove. Online stalking is very difficult to prove. And it didn't matter. The police told me that, we believe you, we get it, but, because it was never completely officially resolved, I'm not comfortable talking about it publicly.
Okay.
If at any time we have real proof and I feel completely safe, then maybe I can tell the story. But at this point, it's still kind of being investigated.
So let's kind of segue then into this, because one of the things that you and I talked about that we would be able to discuss a little bit is online dating, because it's something that you have done in the past. And you learn some things. And I think it'd be very informational and helpful for men and women, obviously, to maybe hear some of your insights into what that experience taught you.
Absolutely. Great idea. This was a couple years back, when I was in between relationships, and I had done some online dating, and I was always very cautious. Always, always, always meet in a public place. I have an app on my phone. So as soon as we started to exchange personal information, I always gave the man my phone number, and he would text me first. And as soon as he texted me, and I can't remember the name of the app, it's like Sync Me or something, and now I'm telling the world, but you know what? It's a great app. If they text you, their name automatically appears, and you can Google them before you have an opportunity to, go to the next date or the next level and become feeling more comfortable. And there was a situation where, so I'm talking to the guy, we exchanged phone numbers, he texted me, I Googled him right away, and bam, right away he's married, right? So I'm like, okay, let's have some fun. Jerk. He's online, right? This guy is, he's only been married a few weeks. I'm like, are you kidding me?
Oh, wow.
He's got a picture of his destination wedding and his bride, on a tropical beach. And I say, are you married? And he says, we're just texting. And he laughed out loud. That's my twin brother.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, my God.
That's a good one.
Right? So he's like, and this is so-and-so the third. I'm sure you have a twin brother. So this good-looking guy, schmuck, right? So I am within minutes. He's like, oh, gotta go. His Facebook page was gone. There was no proof of him online. He took down his dating, profile, everything gone.
Busted.
Right, busted. A few months later, out of the blue. Now, I have not heard from this guy, never even met him. We texted one night. Out of the blue, 2 a.m., and how the heck he knew I was up at 2 a.m., it was very weird. It happened to be on a night that I was home alone, very weird, which, I'm a mom. I'm not home alone very often. And I had been on Facebook. So he must have seen me liking some posts or something. And I thought, oh my God, is this person stalking me on Facebook? And he texts me and I'm like, what the heck? And of course it pops up who it is right away. And I'm thinking, oh my God. So I texted him back. I said, divorced already? And he says, laugh out loud, this is America. And then I think he said, well, how are you? And I sent him a grumpy face. And I said, well, now that you woke me up. And he goes, oopsies. So I'm like, okay, I don't hear from him. 2 weeks later, again, the exact same thing, like 4 a.m, something like that. I'm like, this guy's got to be kidding me. I don't even know him. And now I'm getting kind of freaked out. Is he watching my house? Is he stalking me? I don't know. I'm home alone again. Coincidence? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know.
That is freaky, though. That is
right?
very freaky.
It scared me. So I go to his Facebook page, and now it's back up again. And I screenshot the picture of him and his wife, and I texted it to him, and I said, you might want to think twice about texting me again. And I never heard from him again. And then I put it all over Facebook, the text, the whole story, everything. And I posted it right on Facebook and said, women beware.
So for women that might be doing, some online dating or maybe considering online dating, what would you say would be things that they should be looking out for? I mean, obviously doing a little research on the person, seeing if you could find out who they are. Any other tips?
Don't break the rules. Every online dating app, from what I could remember, it's been a long time since it was a couple of years ago. So I don't know what has changed, but even like Craigslist, everything, they give you safety rules. Don't break them. Always meet in a public spot. Do not deviate from this. Always have an out. Always have your own car. Always meet in public. Do not meet a stranger anywhere without having that first introduction. And don't rush into it, because you really don't know this person. So don't tell them where you live. Don't give away too much personal information. Take it slow. There's no rush here. I mean, get a feel for, your surroundings. Don't end up in a dark alley with someone that you just met at a bar. I mean, just be careful. Just be careful.
So I mean, obviously, use some real good common sense, but, you also put some, good information out there, like make sure you have your own vehicle, don't have them come pick you up, or don't pick them up, because now one of them is going to be driving and the other one isn't. And now you're dependent on them to take you home, or, you are to drop them off, and, things can happen. And again, you don't know who the person is. They may seem like the best, your knight in shining armor, but we all know that people can put up a facade that looks real good on the outside, but it really is hiding stuff underneath.
And how many times, there was actually a cartoon that I saw that it was funny, and I put it on my refrigerator, because this woman's on a date with this guy, and she said, and so he's wearing these ripped clothes, and she says, that's not what I meant by ripped. And, you'll go on, right?
Oh, that's funny.
You'll go on a date, and their picture is 10 years old, and the person's 30 pounds heavier. And here I show up, and I'm physically fit, and I'm a size 2, and I'm not misleading anyone. And they have this picture on there, and they're 30 to 40 pounds heavier than they were. I mean, people lie. So just be prepared. Just be prepared a lot.
And that's where I'm sorry to interrupt, but Irene, that's where you do some investigation. Look on Facebook. If you're not seeing pictures, and you've not seen a picture from them for like 2 years, 3 years, then look out. Or 10 years, and say, oh my gosh, you really think that's the person? And this is the problem. We don't speak anymore. We text. We have these conversations where there's never ever a real communication. So you never know by the time you get into that date or that meeting if that person's the real person that they are. But here's the problem that I'm going to fight about is, okay, let's say they seem like a great guy, right? Or a great gal. But ultimately, you don't know what the skeletons in their closet are. That's where Pete teaches on Safety Talk all the time, to be aware of your surroundings. Be aware of certain things. Even be a private investigator. If they don't like it, too bad. Look into them in every way. Anything that kind of shows I don't know, or I really don't trust them, what should we do, Irene?
Well, if someone is offended because you did your background research, then right then and there, no, you're done. You should not, everyone's doing it now. In fact, I went on a couple dates with guys who were offended that I hadn't Googled them. And I'm like, well, I'm busy. Like, whatever, you're a nice guy. We had dinner. Like, so what? I haven't Googled you yet. And they already knew where I lived, what I did. I mean, and here I hadn't given them the information. They're like, well, it really wasn't that hard to find you.
I'm gonna ask Pete, the expert. Is that a good thing that Irene still could be found like that? That's the question.
Well, as long as not just Irene, but anybody out there can be found, if you're taking precautions to protect yourself and your home and your family, that's really all you can do, because you can find anything, as you know, out about anybody anywhere. And one of the things that, we were going to talk about is, Irene, is the home security system, and why it's so important to have a home security system. And that's just one more reason, is if you are home and you've met somebody and they've, found out who you are, where you live, et cetera, and they come knocking on your door at, midnight or 2 a.m, and you've got an alarm system and they try to break in, or worse, you've got that panic button, or you've got an alarm system now that can, hopefully trigger them to leave if it goes off. But again, the problem with that is there is going to be a delay between when the alarm goes off and when even 2 minutes goes by and when the police show up. So you've got to have, and this goes for everybody out there, even if you have an alarm system, there will be a delay between when law enforcement arrives and when, and you still may be dealing with a situation for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes. So what are you going to do in that time? Do you have a place that's safe in your home that you can lock down, a safe room that's got a strong door, a solid core door that is not going to be easily broken into? Do you have a way to protect yourself? Do you have, whether it's a gun or some sort of maybe mace or pepper spray or some other sort of weapon that you can use to defend yourself? These are uncomfortable topics that people do not like to address, right, because they don't think it's going to happen to them. But if something were to happen, and I think right now, Irene's made a really good case for this, is that, here she is, somebody who never thought this sort of thing could happen to her, yet it's happened repeatedly in different situations. And it's, you need to take these precautions. And so, Irene, what would you say is the best thing that a home security system has given you? Peace of mind? What else?
Well, Pete, excellent points. And you have to have protection. And, call me crazy if you want. I don't care. I know where I have a weapon in every room, and not a weapon. It doesn't have to be a gun. It doesn't have to be, a weapon that can even be used against you, but something that you can use to protect yourself, something. And, I do a look around and think, okay, well, what would I do? But I took self-defense classes. I mean, this really prompted me to learn how to shoot a gun and to protect myself and to stay in top physical shape and strength and know a few very basic self-protection techniques. And it doesn't take much. It doesn't take much to know, where to hit them, to knock their wind out, where to hit them, to take your hands and hit their ears, which is a very sensitive spot. I mean, we all know the most important place to hit someone to get them down, right? But just to even know, even if you don't have time to take a full self-defense class, to know a couple of very basic self-defense techniques and be prepared to use them if you have to. And
I have, these are things that I teach all the time, to people, individuals, students, private clients, women, as I mentioned before, realtors, on our safetytalkpodcast.com website, which is growing rapidly and getting tons of traffic. It's been fantastic over the last few weeks, especially. I have links to different websites that I have, put up over the years. And one of them is a learnselfdefenseonline.com website where anybody can sign up and learn some basic moves. Because as you just said, it doesn't mean you've got to be a 5th degree black belt master like me in order to effectively protect yourself. Most people don't have the time, the money, or the interest to do that. But everyone should know a few key moves that would help protect them in a situation. And not only do they need to know a few of those moves, they need to know how to mentally prepare themselves and be able to flip that switch off in their mind that goes from being, Mr. or Mrs. Nice Guy to you shouldn't have messed with me. Now it's
Exactly.
on.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, you hit the nail right on the head. I mean, you have to have that mentality that I will fight and I will not even blink an eye if it comes to the safety of my children. I mean, not even blink an eye. I will fight. I will protect my family in a second.
And you have to do it without fear. You have to do it with 100% commitment. And what I preach is the warrior mindset. And it's the warrior mindset, which is just like the samurai warriors of Japan, which was they were given an order and they would carry it out, even if it meant they were going to be hurt or killed. And so the same thing holds true in a self-defense situation when you're fighting for your life. And that was the title of my first book, was the Self-Defense Survival Guide, How to Fight When You're Fighting for Your Life.
Absolutely.
And that tells people, look, the mental side of self-defense, I firmly believe, after doing this for 25 years, 80% of it's mental. I could teach people the coolest self-defense moves in the world, but if you can't bring yourself to use them, what good is it?
I agree 100%, Pete. Absolutely. You have to have, and I do think that sometimes, the experiences that you have in your life, maybe they aren't the greatest, but I think they prepare you and they give you that mental toughness that if it ever happens again, to go into battle and to be able to protect yourself. Going back to the alarm, I do have 2 panic buttons. So I have one that's portable, and there's always one right by my door as well. So if anyone's even just delivering a package or something, it's always right there. And they're not that expensive. And to have that peace of mind to know that if you have to use it, it's something I really think that everyone should have.
And have a plan B. Like you said,
Yeah.
have something in every room of the house or real close by that if you have to grab it, you have it, to at least give yourself a fighting chance until law enforcement arrives. If you do have to hit that button because somebody's trying to get in, or like you said, a bogus delivery, you never know. But a home security system is absolutely a great idea.
And it happens a lot. I mean, I'm on one of those neighborhood watch apps, and it's really kind of scary. And I'm in a really safe neighborhood. It was actually rated as one of the safest neighborhoods in the country at some point. I don't remember, which publication that was, but it doesn't really matter where you are. It doesn't matter where you are. It can happen. And there was just a couple of weeks ago, there were a couple of strange people just going door to door late in the evening, and people weren't answering their doors, and they just let everyone know. I mean, what were they doing? And sometimes they could just be trying to rob you. I mean, you just don't know. So
you bring up a good point too there, because like you just said, you live in what's considered a really safe neighborhood. Safe for who? The people that maybe live there, but you don't know who's passing through. You don't know who's visiting. You don't know who just happens to randomly be there for whatever reason. And so you have to always have your guard up. You have to always think about, what looks strange, what may be out of place. And if something were to happen or when something were to occur, this is what I'm going to do. I've got my panic button. I've got my whatever here that's going to help me protect myself. And as long as you know that you're doing as much as you can to prepare yourself, that's not going to be anything that's paranoia or fear. It's going to give you confidence. And when we're confident, guess what? We exude that confidence, and it reduces your allure as a victim to somebody. Because if they see that you're confident, they're like, well, that person doesn't really look like they're worried about much. So I'm going to go on and look at, for my next victim who's going to look like they're going to be an easier target.
Exactly. I mean, if you carry that intimidating persona, you're without question less likely to be victimized.
Most definitely. Oh, wow. And I guess, Irene, what tips would you provide for our listeners right now when it comes to specifically safety in that way? What tips would you provide, especially when you're talking about in-home protecting yourself?
Well, in home or not in home, always be cautious. Always be aware. Even just tonight, great example. We had this big storm. We were going to talk about the storm, Pete. We had this huge windstorm come in last night, and I was lucky. I lost a shutter that cracked in half, but we didn't lose power. My neighbor's tree got blown over and the roots cracked his gas line. So they were out there all day working. And then after it got dark, I saw a strange light in my yard and on my garage. And I'm thinking, who the heck is in my yard? Is that the police? It's like the police going around the few times that they've been here, circling the house, and they're, flashlights everywhere. I'm like, what's happening? Flashback, right? And it was just the gas guy, finishing up. And just be cautious. Be aware of your surroundings. And if you see someone in your yard or something strange, call the police. Let them know, because they might not come to your home because they see your big, stickers, your alarm. But what if they go 2 doors down and the neighbor doesn't have an alarm?
Right.
Just be aware and let your neighbors know if you see anything suspicious, someone walking up and down the street checking cars. I mean, anything.
Now, we talked before, as you mentioned, with this storm, and, that could have been an absolute disaster what happened. I mean, a gas line breaking, now all of a sudden you get a gas leak. All it would take is the smallest little spark, and that could have produced a crazy explosion that could have damaged homes, could have killed people, etc. And, it's funny because this safetytalkpodcast.com site is a news aggregation site, as well as a place where you can find episodes to this show, among other places. And one of the news articles they pulled in was about this crazy wind we had here in the Northeast today. And just to let people know, it's something that I never heard of before, and I'm sure a lot of people hadn't. It's called a bomb cyclone. Who the heck has ever heard of a bomb cyclone? I never did. But that was what today's high winds here in the Northeast. They'd affected 14 states. They ranged in speed from 40 to 60 miles an hour. Affected about 80 million people. Homes, 600,000 homes and businesses lost power, and over 500 flights were canceled. Now, this is just from the wind, okay? And there's a perfect example. We're knocking over a tree from a windstorm, ruptures a gas line. And now we're in winter. Something else that came up. This past Sunday, there was a huge snowstorm out in Wisconsin, 130 car pileup. Okay, one person was killed, 71 people were injured. The police out there said it was, in 25 years, the worst accident they've ever seen in their lives. These are things that, okay, maybe there's not something you can do if you're caught up in the middle of a 130 car pileup, but you should not be on the roads if you know that sort of thing is happening. So, again, awareness, things that we can do to protect ourselves and not put ourselves at risk in the first place. And so these are all, great tips and information for people that you may not even have ever thought of something like the winds here today, but it affected many, many millions of people, canceled all kinds of flights, and I'm sure did a heck of a lot of damage. And we're probably going to see some crazy damage numbers coming out in the next few days in terms of what it actually did.
Yeah. I mean, stay home, stay safe, just stay home. My girlfriend, we were talking and she was going to drive in the storm, like 40 minutes. And I said, why? She said, no, I have to go get my car. I'm like, honey, don't do it. Take an Uber. She said, something, Irene, you're right. And she ended up taking an Uber to work today and is picking her car up tomorrow, I think now. So I'm like, just don't do it. It's not worth it. I said, how are you going to take care of anyone if you're in the hospital?
Very true. Very true. No. And, people think they have to, but at what cost? At what cost?
Exactly. At what cost?
So there are, some really great, tips, Irene, and some really good information. So I really appreciate that. And, like you mentioned earlier, taking care of your health is something that is extremely important for people, their physical health, their mental health, emotional health, spiritual health. And, when you are victimized, you quickly realize who your friends are, right? And maybe you could kind of touch on that just for a minute.
Yes, Pete, that is a really good point. And you try to wrap your head around it because it's painful when, some people, it's crazy. Some people come out of the woodwork who you haven't seen, and the overwhelming support, can just be so wonderful. But I think people are so they can't rationalize something that bad happening, that they don't want to believe it. They don't want to be involved. They don't want to think about it. And, when something like this happens to you, you can really lose friends or people in your life because they, I can't even explain it, but just, you really have to be prepared. Take care of your health, because nothing can prepare you for the repercussions of something after it does happen to you, other than taking the best care of yourself, your health, your physical health, and just prepare yourself. And, you have to surround yourself with people who care about you and who are going to be supportive. And
you had a great line that you said, instead of saying "me too," what is it you said?
Oh yeah, not me, not me.
Instead of "me too," not me. I love it. I love it.
I'm never going to join the Me Too movement. I don't care what happened to me. I say not me. I'm going to take care of myself, protect myself, and you can judge me all you want, or say that, maybe I'm a little overly cautious because I got my young daughter a cell phone before any of the other kids had one. I don't care what anyone says. I don't care. Not me. And not my
And the great point is you shouldn't care what people think, and you should do what you need to do that you think's best for your family. And that's the most important thing.
Absolutely.
That's it. So where can people find more about some of the service that you provide? You have the copywriting service for email. You have a book, right?
It's on my website, IreneGabelnick.com. It's IreneGabelnick, IreneGabelnick.com. And when I started my website, I started it as a health and wellness blog, health and fitness, and I have over 100 articles on taking care of yourself, taking care of your health, taking care of your lifestyle and happiness. I have an article about when and how to buy your kids a cell phone. I do have another kind of creepy one, and people say, well, maybe you brought it upon you, but why do abductors drive white vans? There's actually a psychology behind it. They pick them purposely because it is the number one vehicle that is used in construction. Usually, very few labels, and so I do have a few articles on there on safety, mostly health and wellness. Yeah, and I've been blogging for a long time now, but I'm a copywriter. I became a copywriter to sell my own books and products, but I do offer services to select clients on occasion in the health and wellness industry is my specialty. But yeah, check me out at IreneGabelnick.com. I've got my books on there, lots of information about health and wellness and taking care of yourself and being happy.
That's fantastic.
That's so true. Yeah. I mean, be happy, check all that stuff out, Pete. And what do you want to add, Pete, to what, again, Irene has been able to share tonight on the show?
Well, I really appreciate, Irene, you coming on the show and giving the perspective that you have to people, because, a lot of the people that we have and are going to have on this show are experts in a particular niche where, they may be talking about one thing in particular and not necessarily talking about it from the perspective of somebody who needs to worry about it on the other side of a problem, whether it's having identity stolen or, we didn't even get into some of the other things we're going to talk about, which, you had, your credit card stolen and checking account, hacked. And, a lot of people have to worry about that today. About once a year, I get a call from one of my credit card companies saying, did you make a charge? And I say no. And they say, okay, cut up the card. We're going to send you a new one. And it's become normal almost to the point where it's ridiculous. But, we have to, you have to be careful about all these things. And so I really appreciate, again, that, you've been able to give some great information for people that will, I think, get them thinking about some things that maybe they never did before, because as we have said, most victims and people of really any sort of crime all say the same thing, which is I never thought it would happen to me. And we can't live our lives in denial. We can't live our lives with our head buried in the sand. We don't need to be paranoid, but we do need to be prepared.
Exactly. And if someone thinks you're being paranoid, just brush it off. Brush it off. Be safe. That's the most important thing. And hey, I'll just have to come back on the show, Pete. Maybe I'll be ready to share my story by then.
Okay. Well, we're all ears.
Yeah. Once you're able to iron everything out, then you can tell the story after that. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure being on the show. It was great talking to both of you. And yeah, it was great.
Fantastic. Okay, well, that's wraps up another episode of Safety Talk, and we will be featuring another guest next week. Next week, we are going to be talking with a cybersecurity expert, someone who helps businesses put in place cybersecurity programs for their businesses, and every business owner should be tuning into that. And even if you're not a business owner, large or small, it's definitely going to be eye-opening and very informative. So we look forward to seeing everybody next week, hearing, from you. And if you have any questions, need to find out any more information, you can always go to safetytalkpodcast.com. Got all kinds of information there about our guests, links to our shows, and forms for if you're interested in being a guest on the show. So until next time, we're signing off. Have a great night, everybody, or day, wherever you are.